There we go. I am having technical difficulties trying to hook the iPad up to this because, as usual, I want to draw because I am horrible at it and I like to showcase my kindergarten drawings. So, tonight we're going to talk about hormones. And Nurse Jessica is here with me to discuss these as well. And I'm going to go down here and I'm going to drop QuickTime. I don't know why QuickTime is doing this, but I'm going to cut it off. If you watch this in post, it'll be a little better for you than you seeing me flip through this all right now. And I think I'm on Doc's iPad Pro. Yes. And now we will come back to here. So, good evening to who has already joined us. We are going to start discussing hormones. Why, hello, Kathy.
Hey, Miss Kathy.
You are awesome. Always here, always trying to keep us.
You're ready before we're ready.
Yeah. And for some reason, I cannot get the iPad to link up to the computer. So let's get to it. So since I can't draw like I like to, we're going to discuss how functional medicine looks at the how it looks at hormones. And so one of the things to look at hormones with is what their mnemonic is. And their mnemonic is known as, oh, it teased me. It was there for a split second and then it went away. The mnemonic that the Functional Medicine Institute for Functional Medicine uses is called PTSD. And it's still not wanting to work with me. I just love it when things don't do as they're supposed to. So the P, I guess I will just put it in the side window. P stands for production. So when we look at this, production, does your body produce hormones? And so what we're trying to do here at Integrated Health of Indiana is we want to be able to help people every way we can. That's why we talk about so much nutrition. You have to have foundational nutrition. You have to be giving your body what it needs so that it can produce hormones. And that's your P. So that's P for production. The T is transport. So when we are looking at how the body transports hormones around, does the signaling happen? And can your body tell what is going on? And do they get to their target tissues? So does the TSH go from the hypothalamus to from the pituitary down to where it needs to go to tell it, hey, we need more T4, and then the T4 needs to be converted into T3, which is the active form. And T3, you have to remember, T3 lasts but a millisecond. So something to think about, a hormone that lasts a little longer is estrogen. So estrogen gets everywhere and it lasts quite a while. So if it's getting transported, once it gets transported, the cells that it's hitting, are they receptive? Are they open? So like for insulin, is your insulin getting to the cell? Is the GLUT transporter going to the surface of the cell? Is it grabbing onto the glucose and is it bringing it into the cell? So that is the cell hearing it? Or do we have so much insulin all the time that we no longer have sensitivity to insulin? So the GLUT transporter doesn't go to the cell and the sugar stays in the bloodstream. So we start to see the rise in blood sugar. The other thing about that, and that's that sensitivity. So that sensitivity is very important. And quite honestly, does it get, or are your cells and the receptors open to what needs to happen? Yeah, so's mine. We had a crazy day today. It was awesome.
The cats dragged me in when I come through here.
Well, I look like somebody took an iron to this side of my head.
We've had lots of fun today.
Yeah, it's been a crazy day. So the adrenaline, the testosterone, all of the excitement, that has been happening. The IVs are doing quite well.
Yeah, we went from one room to two rooms, Kathy. I had to make an experience, and I had to just throw myself together and throw me another room together.
She took another room. She's taken over the whole clinic.
I'm taking over.
And that's okay, because it's helping patients. And honestly, that's what we're here for. We don't care if it's the chiropractic that's doing it, if it's the functional medicine that's doing it, if it's the IVs that are doing it. And we're going to continue. We'll probably touch upon a self-experiment that's getting ready to happen. We'll do a little teaser. So we were at sensitivity. Are the cells sensitive to it? So this is where a lot of things happen, especially in cardiometabolic issues. PCOS, you saw where I was talking about PCOS in the description of this, as well as brain fog and those other things, because insulin has a lot to do with all of these things going wrong. We get insulin resistant. We are always dinging our insulin, and the cells, my analogy that most people get is, it's like when you have all of your children around you and they're all going, mom or dad or whatever, mom, dad, and you're just numb to it. And somebody walks into the room and they're like, Jessica, please quiet the children. And she's like, quiet, guys. That's insulin resistant. The cell does not hear insulin telling it what to do because there is so much insulin around. That's why optimally we want insulin between 3 and 4. That allows sensitivity. Myself and another person, we're going to go through about a 3-month trial to look at increasing insulin sensitivity. And it may be something that we actually bring into the clinic depending on how well it works, because sometimes people just need a little more help. And now D, where do we go wrong with D? What does D stand for in the PTSD mnemonic? Got an idea?
No, I was just sitting here thinking about how tired I was and I need this pee.
We were out late last night running around finding chairs and rugs and stuff to put in the room. D is detox. So if you're not eliminating things out, and if you're not having 2 bowel movement, at least one good bowel movement to 2 bowel movements a day, then things are getting backed up in the system. We actually heard the most ridiculous thing last night while we were driving home on the podcast. We were listening to a podcast.
That was an actual doctor, wasn't it?
An actual doctor was talking. I was researching the Joe Rogan issue, and the doctor stated that I don't want to.
If you're peeing and eliminating your bowels, that's because you're eating and drinking too much. Literally, that's not to the T what he said, but
Only slightly paraphrased.
basically, if you are urinating and defecating, it's because you're eating too much.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that.
And so,
And we both about choked.
yeah, elimination, just because of the environment that we live in. I forget how many, and it's thousands of new pollutants get introduced each day. We agree.
Well, just to say how stupid that is, I'm just going to put my nursey hat on. Even if you don't put one drop of water in your stomach a day, your stomach will produce 1 liter of fluid, which passes through your stomach into your intestines, and you still process it, and you will shed the lining of your intestines every day. So even people that are on IVs or none, they will still eliminate.
And it's no different. If you're not detoxing, your body is going to go through phase 1 and phase 2 of detoxification in the body. Your phase 2 detoxification in the liver is nutrient dependent, meaning you have to eat, and you have to eat fiber, and you have to eat nutrient dense foods, because what that does for you is that binds to the water soluble phase 1. The phase 1 product goes into the phase 2 product, and the glucuronidation, sulfation, all of that stuff happens, and the fiber binds to that, and that's how you excrete it. You have to be excreting. You have to detoxify this. If you don't bind women, if you women do not bind your estrogen and get it out, what is the complication that they fear will happen if you're not binding your estrogen and getting it out, and you go too estrogen dominant or estrogen high?
They always worry about cancers.
Breast cancer. And some people will get breast cancer. Some people will get nodes in their, or lumps in their breast, or they'll get cysts on their ovaries, or any number of things. But that's because insulin's too high. Insulin, estrogen, testosterone, any of these things, when they get out of balance, you have to have the body systems that bring it back into balance to excrete it and get it out. So, last week we covered the tree of life. This week we're kind of going into how hormones, you've got to have these hormones, because if you don't have the good hormones, you can't trigger the mitochondria to produce energy, so you get low in energy. If you have a problem in detoxification of hormones, then things get backed up. And if you're female and you go estrogen dominant, or you get hyperinsulinemia, so the aromatase gets off, you start to grow hair on your face where you shouldn't have it.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah. You get hair on your face where you shouldn't have it. You get breast lumps. You get cysts. Periods go crazy. You get hard periods. They often complain of clotting. I know this is all real sexy stuff that you like to hear, but hopefully nobody's eating. So that's what happens for guys. Aromatase will go crazy in us when we get hyperinsulinemic, and that's where we get man boobs, and we don't typically get headaches, but low T will start to happen. Insulin will absolutely hammer your testosterone. And we were in class the other night, and we were discussing statins, and this absolutely floors me. This is coming from an MD PhD who does the research. This is not Dr. Miller, the chiropractor, functional medicine guy. An MD PhD said, we now know in the studies that if you take statins long term, Eventually, you fatigue out the HMG coenzyme A, and the very thing that statins are supposed to keep from happening, it happens. And you get hypercholesterolemia long term on statins. And I was like, wow, why don't they talk about this? And why don't they have on the commercials that, oh, hey, long term statin usage might result in high cholesterol? And it just absolutely floors me. So, honestly, I don't know. We're coming up on our time, so I'm going to wrap this up. I don't know how much damage I've done to my body in that prior 30 years before I really started to straighten things out. So we're going to do a little experiment on ourselves. We'll tease this a little bit. And we're going to be working with a pharmacist and a doctor. And we're going to do a 3-month trial and see how we can do at resensitizing the cells to insulin, working on some hormonal dysfunction. And if that works, we're going to start to roll it out to a second wave of people that we trust and know. And if that wave works out in about 6 months, we will probably add another service at the clinic. Of course, it's not something that I do. We will be working with a doctor, a medical doctor, but it's something that is all natural. It's not drug related. That will give your body the analogy is, if you're going to make a cake and your body is always making cakes, good analogy, it's making the cake batter.
Gluten free though.
Yeah. It's making the batter for your joints. It makes the batter for your enzymes, for your hormones, all of this stuff. And that's made with proteins. What's happening is we can short term give your body the batter to make just the joint stuff, or just the insulin sensitizing stuff, or just the testosterone or progesterone or estrogen parts, but we're not giving the hormones. We still let the body do the work and oversee everything. So that's pretty exciting. This is something I've been very into or very interested in for probably 10 years, 15 years.
Yeah, we get to be the lab rats.
Yeah. Well, as in everything that we do here, we don't do anything here that we haven't tried.
Yeah.
That we haven't done on ourselves.
We'll make sure that it's safe and
effective.
You can get results.
Yep, that's what we want.
But I have something to share. I got the coolest thing done this week. I got my tear ducts plugged.
Oh, that's right. She went to
and I want to share.
Go ahead.
So I went to the most nicest facility to get a pair of readers. And they noticed my eyes were red. And I have scratched and rubbed my eyes off for 2 years at least, maybe 3.
I always told her she was looking like she was doing something she ought not be.
Yeah. And I thought, well, it's probably we thought maybe it was because I didn't sleep at night and I just rolled on all hours of the day. And then.
So she's suffering from dry eye.
So dry eyes. And like most other nurses, we're non-compliant. I don't like to put stuff in my eyes. And I react to the eye drops because they maybe are just saline, but they always have preservatives and they swell my eyes up. So it makes it even worse. So she asked me how many times I used eye drops. And I said, well, I don't know, just when it's horrible, maybe once a month or less. And then she's like, well, why do you have dry eyes? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Nobody's ever asked me that question before. They actually said, well, why don't we bring you in and get to the root of the problem? And I thought, who are you and where am I? So she actually did discuss my diet, my activities, and environment. Went in, did these cool little things. It was like testing your glucose, but they touched your eyes and sucked up your tears, basically. So they checked the salinity, which is the salt content in your eyes. And they check for inflammation, believe it or not, which I thought was fascinating, by wicking the fluid off of your eyeball. and then they tested. They took more tears, and then they wicked those up, and then they checked to see if there was debris in the tears, and then they also checked your oil glands in your eyes. So 4 different things. So I was perfectly normal in all of those things, or within normal limits. And then I'm like, well, that's great. So why is my eyes dry? And she's like, oh, it's easy. Most likely it's because you make the tears, but you drain them quicker, so they're not staying on your eyes. I said, oh, okay, well, how do we fix that? And so, of course, they can go to medical management, which we already knew we weren't going to do that. And she's like, well, I got an easy fix. And I've never heard of it, but they put collagen plugs, and they can plug your eyes up temporarily. They will dissolve in 5 days. Or they can go to the middle ground, which they're still collagen, different types. And they're called punctal plugs, and they plug up your tear ducts, which you have 4, 2 top, 2 bottom. And so they plug these ones here with just putting numbing drops in, put these little collagen plugs in there.
That makes me just think,
And within 30 minutes, I felt like I had the greatest eyeballs.
She's been raving about it ever since.
2 days. I'm 2 days out. So they said it takes 2 weeks to get maximum results. In 6 months, they will dissolve and they will just fall down into your nasal cavity. You'll swallow them or whatever. And then you can either replace them with the same every 6 months, or you can go in and they can actually put like a silicone plug, and it will plug your tear duct up indefinitely until you have them removed. But I probably won't put silicone ones in there. But anyway,
she's
if you're suffering
silicone implants
in my tear ducts, if you're suffering, you can do so much if you find the right person.
But give that person a plug. I mean, tell them who it is.
So we're in Indiana, and this was Dr. Lane.
Who I put her on the spot. I'll look it up.
Midwest Eye Institute. It was Midwest Eye Institute, and it started with an L. I want to say Lambden, but let's just make sure. Anyway, she's super sweet, very young, probably a year out of school. Their
Midwest
staff
Eye
was
Consultants?
amazing.
That's Noblesville?
No, it's Institute.
No.
They were located on Central Street in Columbus. Their staff was amazing. The tech was amazing. Anyway, I was like, oh, how come that my doctors, they've only just thrown eye drops at me, and I didn't have to use drops, and my eyes feel amazing. So they made sure there was no problems with the eye itself. And then once they realized there was really no problems, then they came up with this.
Dude, they got a lot of people in there. Huh.
Had 2 locations. They went down to 1.
Uh-huh. Good Lord.
I remember her, so we're on the right track. Anyway, I've never heard of this. Anyway, if you're suffering or you know somebody's suffering, her name was Lehman.
Sydney
Dr. Lehman. Anyway, if you know anybody suffering, just keep digging.
Yep.
You'll find somebody out there has a non-drug remedy. And if you have dry eyes, just look up punctal plugs. There's my little tidbit for the day.
All right. Well, with that being said, thank you all, and we will see you next week.